So let's now make this work. And for this, I already have this favorite button in my single review HTML file. Now to make this work, I want to make sure that when this button is clicked, we send a request to Django, to our server, and there we then trigger some logic and some view, which will allow us to set this review as our favorite review. Now to send a request, I'll wrap this button in a form, because we learned that with forms we can send requests automatically. Now the method here will be post, and the action should point at the URL which we want to set for this request. And this is up to you. I will use reviews/favorite here. Now such a post request would be sent, but this request wouldn't carry any data because the form is pretty much empty. Only the button is there. I do want to attach some data because on the server side, so the code executed by Python and Django should be able to know which review should become our favorite. Therefore, to add some data, I'll add an input of type hidden. That's an input which the user can't edit, but which will still be submitted as the request body. So here I'll give this a name of review ID, and then I'll set a value where I interpolate the review ID. So from this review, the ID field, so that the ID of the to be favorited review is part of this post request. Now we should be able to send such a request. Now we need to go to URLs PY to also handle it there, to set up a URL for it. And I'll do this here before this path, because here I'll set the path to reviews slash, and then I use /favorite here. So I'll also use /favorite here. And I'm doing this in front of this path because I don't want favorite to be interpreted as a primary key. So I'm doubling down on that, and I want to be super safe by making sure that this path is evaluated first before Django considers sending my request off to this view, because it thinks that favorite is a primary key. Because this dynamic segment, of course, could be anything. I guess that's not an integer, so we should be safe, but nonetheless, having this order doesn't hurt. Now we need a view though. We need a view which then contains the logic for setting this as a favorite. And for this, I'll add a new class, though of course it doesn't have to be a class-based view, but I'll add one here. And I'll name this add favorite view. And I'll just extend the default view. So this default view, which we're importing from Django views. I'll extend that view. And then here, I'll add a post method, which will be triggered for incoming post requests. It's now this view, which should be connected to this URL. So here I'll point at views, add favorite view as view, like that. And now here in this views.py file, in this new add favorite view, we want to get the review ID, and we then want to mark this as our favorite. Now getting the review ID is fairly straightforward. We can use request posts, as you learned, to access the review ID key, like this. Now we have the submitted review ID. We can now use our model, the review model, to get the full review object based on that ID. So for this, we can, of course, use objects get and get that review where the primary key is equal to this review ID we're getting. And that's then our favorite review. But now we come closer to the interesting part. Now the question is how we can store this in a session.